So, in the preface to Srila Prabhupada's Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes that the present human society, there is a need of universality. Everyone wants to move towards a universal form of religion. Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the answer to that persistent need of human society that we should all unite as humanity. So Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need in human society, Srila Prabhupada mentions. And what is the basis? How is Srimad Bhagavatam universal? How will it bring all humanity together? Because it starts by the Vedantic aphorism. Aphorism is a phrase from the Vedanta. Janmadi asya yata. That creation, so entire creation is coming from that one absolute truth. So all of us, humanity, are having the same common denominator of having the same origin. What is the common cause? It is Bhagwan. So, in creating a basis of society to come together on the basis of a common cause, that is where Srimad Bhagavatam is going to be very important. So, we have made a lot of progress technologically in the world today. But Srila Prabhupada says there is still somewhere a pinprick in society. There are quarrels, small and big. We are living in times of war currently. So everyone is trying to figure out how can we live in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. So all of us currently have different centers, and therefore there is conflict. How can we create a common center, which is going to be the basis of peace, friendship, and prosperity for the whole world? So Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need. That is Srila Prabhupada's assurance that this is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. That is Prabhupada's strong belief. And this is going to re-spiritualize the entire society. So why is there disparity in human society? Because there is a lack of principles. One, the civilization is godless, and second, it is without any principles. Or principles, when I say a value system. There is no common value system and there is no God-centric lifestyle. So first we need to understand who is the center of this creation. So that is what the first verse is going to throw light upon. Everything emanates from God. Everything is maintained by God and everything will ultimately rest in God. So, it is natural. It is, just practical and logical to be God centric in everything that we do. If we try to find the cause of the universe, by the study of material sciences, we cannot give a sufficient cause to the creation. Yeah. But we know that there is some ultimate source for everything that is. So, what is that? That is explained rationally and authoritatively in the Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the meaning of Shri? It indicates beauty. So that which is full of beauty, the beautiful Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes. So we'll come to understand how we can practice a life of a God-centric society based on principles. Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental science. Yeah. Science means there is a method and there is a result. If you follow the method, you're bound to get the result. So, in that sense, Srimad Bhagavatam is also a science. It is a transcendental science. It is a science for you to learn how to know the source of everything. So, if you follow the method given in Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll actually come out with the result of realizing the cause of all causes and also realizing our relationship with Him and our duty towards Him. So, this is the confidence and promise of the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is originally in Sanskrit, and there are, more than 10 commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the only Puran which has so many commentaries. There are many other Purans, but not all of them have as many commentaries. Some have one, some have two, but Srimad Bhagavatam has many, many commentaries. And among them, a dozen commentaries are prominent. So Srila Prabhupada has gone through the arduous process of reading 10 to 11 Sanskrit commentaries of different acharyas in different eras, assimilating the meaning, you know, contextualizing it according to this present day and age, and then giving it to us in his Bhaktivedanta purpose. So Srila Prabhupada has not slept for nights. He used to wake up and translate and comment. So this is what he has been doing, and we are going to enter into his commentaries and his labor of love to present the Acharya's teachings to us. So this is the way through which we will be talking to the Acharyas. We will be understanding their mood, their mind. We call ourselves followers of these Acharyas, Rupa Anugas, Prabhupada Anugas. But how much do we really know their mind? This is an opportunity to associate with them, understand their mind. So once we understand, study Srimad Bhagavatam, we will know God perfectly. Srila Prabhupada is making this claim. You will be able to know God perfectly well. What is the tattva of Bhagwan? You will be able to defend yourself from atheistic arguments. Yeah. And over and above all of this, you will be able to present to others the idea of God as a concrete principle. Yeah, not an abstract idea, but God as a concrete principle. So this is the claim of study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Understanding Bhagavad Tattva, protecting ourselves or defending ourselves from atheistic arguments, and being able to present or communicate the idea of God as a concrete, tangible principle. So, Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. So, the first attribute of divinity is the source of everything. And this is Srila Vyasadev's commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So, I'm sure you must have heard that Srila Vyasadeva compiled the 18 Puranas, and those Puranas are categorized according to different gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. The Puranas are to address an audience who is in these three different gunas. Srila Vyasdev also composed the Mahabharata, he composed the Vedanta Sutra, but there was still a deep despondency within his heart, a deep dissatisfaction even after composing this. So imagine if the author is despondent, what will you as a student benefit? You cannot get a better result than the author himself. So why was Vyasadeva despondent? So his guru, Narad Muni, came and he pointed out to him that already, we will see these verses also, that Jugupsitam, already people in this world have a tendency for karma. And you have only given an impetus to that. So, what did Vyasdev not do in the literatures he compiled? The Puranas, Mahabharata, Vedanta Sutra. He did not present bhakti repeatedly as the supreme goal. He did present that, yes, bhakti is the ultimate goal, but he did not do it repeatedly and sufficiently. At some places, he presented bhakti as being an assistant to karma, jnana, and other processes. So, in that sense, he reduced the status of bhakti. So that was the cause of his despondency. So in correcting that, he presented in his maturity, in his full realization and after guidance from his guru, in his full realization and maturity, he presented Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So, what does Srimad Bhagavatam have that is different from other Puranas, Itihasas like Mahabharata and Ramayana and the Vedanta Sutra? Srimad Bhagavatam is full of glories of bhakti and full of glories of Krishna. Krishna is continuously and consistently glorified. Bhakti is continuously and consistently glorified. Krishna is presented as the ultimate object of worship. Krishna is presented as the master of all energies. So other avatars are also glorified, but Sri Krishna is presented as the supreme. So Srimad Bhagavatam, we should understand, is non-different from Krishna. Yeah. Just like, there is the book and there is Bhagwan. There is no difference between this literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Swayam Bhagwan Krishna himself. So Padma Puran says this. Srimad Bhagavatakyo yam pratyaksha Krishne evahi. Srimad Bhagavatam is directly Lord Krishna. Please don't treat it as a book. It is Krishna in the form of a book, and it is Krishna available for you to associate with. Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavatam is directly Lord Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. This should be clear to all of us as we begin this journey. So Padma Puran says that, this Srimad Bhagavatam with 12 cantos, 18,000 verses represent Krishna completely. The first two cantos are the Lord lotus feet. The third and fourth canto are the thighs of the Lord. The fifth canto is the navel of the Lord. The sixth canto is the chest of the Lord. The seventh and the eighth canto are the arms of the Lord. The ninth canto is the throat of the Lord. And the tenth canto, the highlight of this Bhagavad Puran is the Dashamaskan. That is the blooming lotus face of Sri Krishna. And the 11th canto is his forehead, and the 12th is his head. So, this is how each canto of Srimad Bhagavatam represents different parts of the spiritual body of the Lord as presented in Padma Puran. So, this is a bridge for us jivas to cross over the unfathomable ocean of samsara. So, we are in this material cosmic manifestation, and there is a spiritual sky beyond this samsara. What is the bridge? Can we ever cross over this material realm? Yes, we can. Srimad Bhagavatam is that bridge for crossing over the unfathomable ocean of material existence or samsara. So Srimad Bhagavatam has appeared as the very self of Sri Krishna. And Skanda Puran also says this, that Srimad Bhagavatam and Swayam Bhagwan have the same nature, Sat, Chit, Anand. Both are of the same qualitative characteristics. So this is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, and as we are also discussing from Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatan Goswami, he glorifies Bhagavatam, yeah, as an incarnation of Lord Krishna, as Krishna who is returned to us in this age of Kali Yuga. So Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna's Swarupa Shakti. Okay, when we speak of what are the nine limbs of bhakti? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, and so on. So, Hari Katha is the main characteristic of bhakti. when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So what does that mean? What is Kirtan? Kirtan is Kirtaniya Sada Hari means to unceasingly chant the holy names of the Lord. Yeah. So to glorify the Lord non-stop. So Hari Katha is that Kirtan. Yeah. So this culture of Kirtans propagated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hari Katha is the Swarupa Shakti of Harinam. So if you want to properly worship Sri Krishna, yeah, you have to worship Krishna with his Swarupa Shakti, like we worship Radha and Krishna. Similarly, our Harinam, recitation of Harinam is incomplete and improper unless it is accompanied by hearing Harikatha. That is the importance of Harikatha. So Kirtaniya Sadahari in is emphasizing on glorifying Krishna constantly through Srimad Bhagavatam. So coming back to Srila Prabhupada's preface, that the author, Srila Vyasadeva, is gradually developing the subject matter. The first nine cantos are meant to give us a context and understanding of Bhagavan before you enter the 10th canto, which describes the Leela of Bhagavan. So if you don't philosophically, ontologically understand who is Bhagavan, you directly jump into the Leelas of Bhagavan, we will end up misunderstanding it and also, disrespecting them. So systematically, we have to sincerely progress through chapter by chapter of each canto progressively, sequentially. We cannot jump here and there. So Srila Prabhupada says that is the only qualification to understand this great transcendental knowledge. Just proceed step by step cautiously. Don't jump forward haphazardly. In other books, you might do that, but not in this. Dashamasya Vishuddhi Ardham. The first nine cantos are meant to ultimately highlight the subject matter of the 10th canto. So Srila Prabhupada says we have given systematically the original Sanskrit verse, then its English transliteration, then synonyms. In the session on the importance of Shastric study, we saw there is Anvaya. The meaning of the verse is understood by analyzing the synonym of each word of that verse. That helps us give a relevant meaning to the verse. So, therefore, synonyms are important. Don't skip over them. And then translation, and then purports by Srila Prabhupada. So, it is arranged in a way that one is sure to become a God realized soul at the end of finishing the first nine cantos. There is no question. You will completely realize who is God, what is the tattva of Bhagwan. So the 10th canto deals with the Leelas of Sri Krishna. So one will be unable to capture the effects of the 10th canto without going through the first nine cantos. So it is good to read them all one after another. So Srila Prabhupada says, I admit I am not perfect. I might have frailties. But the subject matter is transcendental. That is what is appreciated. There is a verse which we will study in the fifth chapter of this very first canto, which is a beautiful explanation of the nature of transcendental subject matter. So, we are knowingly or unknowingly, we are consuming so much literature. We are taking in impressions from media, books. What impressions are we consuming? You know, like the food that we eat makes up our body. Similarly, the impressions that we take from messaging going on all around us, that forms our mental state. So there is mundane literature and there is transcendental literature. So there is a beautiful verse in the fifth chapter of first canto, which Srila Prabhupada presents in his preface. The 11th verse, beautiful verse, one of my favorites. Tadvag visargo janatag viplavo yasmin pratishlokam api namani anantasya yashonkitani yad shrinvanti gayanti granati sadhavaha. That there is mundane literature which has only the narration of the sensual experience of the materialists. Yeah, that is like a place of pilgrimage for the crows. Where do crows gather? Crows gather at a garbage bins. So mundane literature is compared to that. It's a place of relish for the crows. But the transcendentalists, the swans, the sadhus, they don't take any relish in such mundane literature. Instead, where do they find relish? Tad vak visargo. Vak means literature or composition. Vak comes from the word vach, speech. That literature, which is full of the descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, form, fame, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, that is a transcendental creation. So, whatever literature describes the glories of the Lord, that is a transcendental creation. Tad vag visargo janatag janata agha viplavo. So whatever is the contamination in human, it will help us overcome that. And beautifully, Srila Prabhupada translates that this transcendental literature is meant to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. So much is compressed in this one sentence. We are leading impious lives, and as a civilization, we are misdirected. We are heading to conflict and chaos. So, how can we bring about a revolution, a change in our impious lives and not be misdirected by taking shelter of this wisdom? And then the purpose for which Srila Prabhupada is composing this verse is that the same verse says, even if such transcendental literatures are irregularly composed, fine, there might be some faults, still they are heard, sung, and accepted. Shrinvanti, heard, Gayanti, sung, Grananti, accepted. Sadhava, by purified people who are thoroughly honest. So, people who are honest and thoughtful and pure, they'll accept literature which is transcendental, even if it might have some faults. So that is, how humbly Srila Prabhupada is beginning his commentary to Srimad Bhagavatam. So this Prabhupada wrote, interestingly, on December 15th, 1962. That's the preface for you. And in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada says that this literature is going to talk about God. So, what is this conception of God? So, the first verse is going to introduce to us the concept of God as Satyam Param or Param Satyam. Param means to the fullest extent, and Satyam means truth. Something that is the truth in all circumstances and all times. That doesn't is not relative, it doesn't change with context or time. So Srila Prabhupada is saying the word God and absolute truth, they are not on the same level. Srimad Bhagavatam is presenting absolute truth. So while God indicates the idea of a controller, The word absolute truth, Satyam Param, indicates what is the ultimate source of all energy. So there is a difference in connotation or meaning of the two words. The word God is used when we are meaning controller, Ishvara, but the word Param, Satya, Satyam, is used when we are trying to present what is the Samam Bonam. Samam Bonam means what is the ultimate source of everything, the cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam. That is the meaning of Satyam Param. And if there is a controller, can the controller be impersonal? No. Controller means there has to be a personality to that controller, just like, we might have a democratic governance. The structure, the policies might seem impersonal to some extent, but ultimately, who is forming those democratic policies and frameworks is a executive head, and that is a person. So similarly, the idea of a controller of the ultimate source cannot be without personality. So the impersonal feature is subordinate to the personal feature. Yeah. So there might be different beings who have different levels of control. We are ordinary human beings. We are manavas. Then there are devatas. So devatas have greater control. Yeah, they are in fact the managerial controllers of various departments of universal affairs. So they have been given that portfolio, like ministers of different, departments, railways, defense, home. So these devatas are vibhuti mat sattva. They are controllers who are empowered by the Lord. And they are controlling on behalf of the Lord because, how will the universe work? So they are all relative controllers and they are dependent controllers. But absolute truth is independent. There are many such smaller celestial controllers. Devatas are celestial beings and they have specific powers. But the absolute truth, Satyam Param, is one without a second. We will use the word Advai again very soon when we start discussing. Advai means one without a second. There is no distinction in that. There is no two. It's ultimately non-dual. So that Satyam Param is one without a second. And that absolute truth or Samam Bonam is presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Vyasadeva is beginning this presentation by offering pranams to that Satyam Param. So the first three verses are Mangalacharan shlokas. Mangalacharan is invoking auspiciousness. So Mangalacharan has different elements. First, we offer Namaskar. Namaskar to our Ishta, who is your personal deity. So that is again being offered in the first verse. Then Mangalacharan also consists of Vastu Nirdesh. What is going to be the topic of this literature? Srila Vyasadeva will present the topic or the content of this literature. And also Ashirvad, blessings. So the first verse is Vyasadeva is saying, I meditate on that Satyam Param. So in Vedic scriptures, the phrase used is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That Brahman is having the attributes of Satyam, Jnanam, and Anantam. So this is how the Vedas describe that absolute truth. Srila Vyasadeva is saying, I meditate on that absolute truth. That is the fourth line of the first verse. And the first three lines describe that Param Satya. So we will also, understand this verse when we come to it. So Srila Prabhupada continues in the introduction that There are, like we discussed, Ishwaras, mini Ishwaras, and there are even powerful people in our world, who has more power, corporate heads, politicians, but they're all deriving their powers from the Supreme Person. So there might be many Ishwaras, but there is only one Supreme Ishwara. That is called Param Ishwara. That is the significance of the word Parameshwar. ईश्वर तो बहुत हैं, परमेश्वर एक ही है. Parameshwar is that supreme conscious personality who does not derive his power from any other source. Yeah. Or in philosophy, it is called the unmoved mover. If you try to see that for every effect, there is a cause. And then you study the cause, you will find that it is the effect of another cause. So if you keep tracing back, you will find some mover which is not moved by any other cause. That is the unmoved mover. So what Western philosophy calls the unmoved mover, Srimad Bhagavatam and Vedantic philosophy is calling Parameshvara. So the celestial beings, the devatas like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, even Brahma, they are not independent in their power and knowledge. They receive it from the Supreme Person. And Paramatma resides in everyone's heart. So here, Srila Prabhupada then starts to describe the first verse, and then there's a beautiful summary of the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his conversations with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, with Prakashanand Saraswati. Srila Prabhupada takes the opportunity to summarize and present it so that everyone can get access to it. And he concludes his introduction by presenting the 8 beautiful verses composed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called the Shikshashtakam. So this is a beautiful presentation in the preface and introduction. Any thoughts or questions so far?
Sorry, I just missed in the Mangala